Okay, good morning. Welcome to a class on fronting, another class on fronting. We'll look at some other forms of fronting. You could front an appositive, you could front an object, to plus infinitive, imperative, gerund, participles, noun clause, verb phrase, and a that clause. We'll look at that in a second, and we will also look at something called extraposition. And in my mind, extraposition is kind of, not exactly, but kind of the opposite to fronting. And all I mean is extraposition is very often putting information down at the other end of the sentence. However, there is an important difference. The reason why they're not direct opposites is you always get a dummy pronoun in extraposition. And you remember we've studied dummy pronouns in another class. But let's have a look at the fronting first, because we've already looked at lots of different types of fronting in the previous class. We mainly focused on adverbial and adjectival fronting, but you can put a noun phrase at the front. Why not? Yeah, this is an appositive being fronted. We actually saw this in another class on appositives, and this sentence, a great scientist, comma, Newton was born on Christmas Day. I want you to compare that way of punctuating the appositive with two other options, which is you could say Isaac Newton, comma, the great scientist, comma, was born on Christmas Day. That would be a non-defining appositive. Or you could say the great scientist Isaac Newton was born on Christmas Day. That would be a defining appositive with no commas. This is a third way, and it looks like the appositive is more detached. Notice you don't have a comma there. Don't put a comma there when you're doing it this way. Yeah, this is the same as my example in the previous lesson where I said a con artist, comma, Conan Doyle tried to encourage people to believe in fairies and life after death. And what I'm doing is I'm detaching the appositive there. I'm detaching the a con artist with just one comma. So that's one thing you can do with appositives. I think they look adverbial there. They look almost like an absolute phrase, acting adverbially on the main clause. Okay, so that's one thing you can front. You can also front the object. What I want you to notice here is you've got subject, verb, object. Yeah, what did you manage to find? You managed to find 3 large conkers, but we can front that object, and when we do, if it's a really long object, you might put a comma in there. You would be well justified in putting a comma in here because the object is fronted before the subject, here's the subject, and the verb, here's the verb. Yeah, so when you've got the object fronted before the subject and the verb, you do often see a comma there. But I wanted to show you a little object to show you that sometimes you don't see a comma there, so don't think you always will find one there. You won't, sadly, but here you'll definitely need one. Look at this one. The road leading to the hospital had been closed, comma, I remembered. There's the subject and the verb, and I want you to see that this one is very similar to direct speech. It's very similar to blah 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 blah, comma, he said.